I'm a brand new guy in a fleet squadron, and we've lost 8 people. And then just along the way, another eight guys. And then along the way, 3 suicides. My best friend that I went through Kingsville with, Eric Swenson, Marine captain, F-18 guy, beautiful bride and 5 kids, just no longer with us. And then 2 other F-18 buddies. So that's kind of what stuck with me. And then transitioning out of a fighter squadron. So I told you I was still flying fighters when I went to Chicago. So I'm like Wall Street guy, fighter squadron guy. Pretty tough transition. In a fighter squadron, as you know, if you don't trust a gal or a guy with your life, they're not in that organization, or you're not flying. We'll blackball you. Skipper, get rid of that person. We're not flying with them. And a mission, right? When you go into the squadron, you got a mission. Either it's this flight today, or we're going to support Operation Iraqi Freedom. I mean, you have a well-defined mission. You have a high-performing team that trusts each other. When I went to Wall Street, man, going from that environment to I couldn't trust somebody to watch my wallet for 5 minutes if I went to the bathroom. I mean,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And these people would push their own mother in front of a bus for $1. I mean, that just was not my ethos, right? I mean, people wearing golf cleats to work. So as they're climbing the ladder, they're stepping all over you, man. It was a brutal transition. So lost my mission, lost an infrastructure. Cause flying for the reserves, it was so funny out of Fort Worth. We all lived in like the same neighborhood. It was like base housing again. So I had a squadron.
Yep.
And here I am up in Chicago, alone and unafraid. So that led to some hard alcohol, led to some drugs, and some, disconnected from my source, my mission, my God. And that was kind of ugly. So that's kind of what I took from the military, was a lot of loss. And, at the beginning you said combat thing, these air medals on the wall, I'm embarrassed to say they were, quote, combat. The toughest flying I ever did in my career was at Top Gun. So in 2003 or 4, I got to go to Top Gun as a reservist, which was awesome. It also kind of sucked because it was awesome because I'm a slack-jawed reservist. I got long hair and, I don't shine my boots. What are you going to do? I quit once, I can quit again. But when I show up to Top Gun with that attitude, about half the Top Gun instructor pilots were former students of mine that I just put through the ringer in the Marine rag. And they're like, Whiz, welcome to Top Gun. I'm like, shit. Yeah. So I went through the adversary course, and that was the toughest flying I've done in my career. The combat sorties over southern Iraq, the no-fly zone missions, probably without a doubt some of the most boring flying. The toughest part of those missions was getting gas off a KC-135 or landing aboard the boat, at night low on fuel. So, I would kind of trauma shame myself, right? I'm like, lost, 16 buddies in 15 years. I had a shitload of childhood trauma I didn't bring up. At the beginning, I was sexually abused as a child. And then my middle sister, Monica, 6 kids. She was the glue that held us together. She was killed by a drunk driver when she was a freshman at Villanova University. And that was just a hand grenade in our family. My dad, he died years later of a broken heart. He was never the same. I lost my parents technically when she died. Yeah. So a lot of childhood trauma. And then I brought that trauma into the military, right? You hide it and then you go into the Navy, you fly fighters. And then I had all that stuff happen. And then I had kind of all the Chicago, ickiness happening. Yeah. So, about 4 years ago in 2020, God takes care of fools, drunks, and sailors. I timed the COVID market crash like to the day. We made $2.5 million in about 3 weeks trading the COVID as the market imploded. Do you remember all the smart money on CNBC? Oh, I think stocks have bottomed here. And the next day the Dow goes down 3. Yeah. Donald Trump, I have a screenshot of the tweet. He deleted it. Stocks are looking good here. I'd be a buyer of stocks. And the next day, the Dow went down like 3,000 points. Yeah. I think I made 75 grand.
Sure.
Yeah. I made like 75 grand in minutes on that type of stuff. And that really proved that the smart money is a bunch of idiots. I remember Kyle Bass or Bill Ackman like crying on CNBC, like, hey, we need to close the markets and like take a break. I'm like, no, 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 no. I got bearish trades on, man. I'm on the other side of your trades, dude. Ain't no crying in baseball here, buddy. And thankfully the market stayed open. I bring that up because made a shit ton of money in a short amount of time. And I'm like, you know, my dad always used to remind me, you can't take it with you, son. You know, you're not a pharaoh. You're not putting this stuff in your tomb with you to go. So I talked to my wife and I said, you know, Swede, all the other guys that killed themselves. And around that time, the government numbers was 22 veterans, 17, I think it was 17 at the time. Then they kind of inched it up to 22. I said, man, why don't we start a foundation to do something about veteran suicide? We made this money. It ain't doing us any good. I like having a nice house and car. Other than that, I don't need anything. So we started a foundation to try and end veteran suicide. And it was called Top Gun Fighter Foundation because clearly I have a big marketing department, you know. Top Gun Fighter Foundation.
It's good marketing though, you know. So I
get it resonates with people. So I was at a loss. How do you keep a veteran from killing themselves? You know, help them write a resume, buy them a suit. I was absolutely clueless how you try and keep a veteran from killing themselves. Equine therapy, just so many different things. And as God would have it, a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, there's a group of Navy SEAL veterans that go down to Mexico and they do psychedelic assisted therapy. And there's a really cool group going in a couple weeks. Would you like to go? And I said, go to Mexico for a weekend and do drugs with Navy SEALs. It sounds like a great time. You know, sign me up. That doesn't get any better than that.